I needs to get me a new bounty at that bounty store.
Welcome to the bounty store, stranger.
What have you got for me?
Well, I got these two for blowing up Rupture Farm, Soul Store Brewery, and Vickers Labs.
That seems a bit too hard. Do you have anything easier?
Well, what about this guy? Nobody's seen him for 5 months.
Hasn't been seen in months. Don't worry, I'll find him.
Oddworld Stranger's Wrath was released in January 2005 and made by Oddworld Inhabitants. I've talked a lot about the Oddworld series in the last 3 years of my shows, which you can check out with the link at the top. The long and the short of it, Lorne Lanning created Oddworld when he released Abe's Odyssey back in 1997 for the PlayStation 1. That was the first part of a quintology of games, with the second part being Munch's Odyssey. There's also Abe's Exodus, which is considered a bonus game in the series, which mostly confuses people when they talk about the series. Stranger's Wrath is another bonus game, but unlike Exodus, it's not a sequel but a fully original game, just to make it more confusing. In the game, you play as Stranger, a badass bounty hunter. He is fast, agile, clever, and very capable. He hunts bounties using living ammo to earn Moolah, the currency in Oddworld, in order to pay for an operation that he desperately needs. That's about all we know about Stranger, and his journey at the start is all shrouded in mystery. So let's help out this guy, because if we don't, we might incur his wrath. All of the Oddworld games prior to Stranger's Wrath were puzzle platformers, but this one they decided to go a little bit of a different route. This game is sort of split up into two major gameplay styles. The first is a 3D puzzle platformer where Stranger can run and jump and double jump and get around the terrain just like any other 3D character can. He is not super mobile around the 3D terrain, but he is mobile enough. He also has a strange running feature where if you hold the direction button in a direction long enough, he builds up momentum and eventually starts running. Not very controllable when he's at full run, but at least he is a little bit more speedy. I personally would have liked a dedicated run button for this, because there are plenty of times where I'm trying to get away from a situation and the build-up of the speed is just too slow and I end up getting more hurt than I should. Other times, because when you're running you can headbutt things, if you accidentally start a run in a town because you're just trying to walk to the next destination, you can actually hit the townspeople, which causes them to panic and then they start shooting you and you get locked out of certain areas until they all calm down. Just minor inconveniences.
Have you guys seen Lytane anywhere?
The second half of the game is in first person. That's right, this is a first person shooter Oddworld game. While most FPSs have multiple weapons, here Stranger only uses a double barrel crossbow. To make this unique and more odd, all of the ammo is alive. It's such a fantastic idea, with each ammo having different movement and its own personality. They all function differently as well, with one making annoying sounds to lure enemies, or a bat that explodes, or even a skunk that works like a gas bomb in order to make people sick. It is in this first person mode that you will be doing pretty much all of the action. That is the main idea behind the game. You'll be exploring in third person, doing the running, jumping, platforming, getting over obstacles and getting around the terrain, and then you will switch into first person as soon as you come up to an enemy. Then you can start luring them out, trying to take them out, and all that kinds of stuff in any way that you can see fit. You can switch between the two modes at any time, which is also handy if you want to make a quick getaway, or if you just want to go into first person mode to do something specific in that mode. And you will be getting into a lot of fights in this game as well, and the bad guys are all fairly similar. They all have some kind of weapon that they will use to attack you with, sometimes shooting at you, sometimes they come up to you and punch you in the face, sometimes they throw knives at you in order to hit you. Some of them explode. There's a lot of variation to these guys, and that keeps the game fresh. There's not too many different models, so if you have the one model, it represents every one of that kind of bad guy. So one that can, does mortars out of his back. There's no color variation between them, which does help differentiate the different things, but then you kind of lack variety when you just keep seeing the same model for every single type of bad guy that you face for that particular group. You can use the terrain to good effect as well. Getting in a higher platform so you can see everything, or maybe even hiding in the bushes. You can use whatever you see around you in order to capture the bad guys. In third person mode, you can see around corners much easier, but in first person mode is where you're going to be doing most of the action and taking out these bad guys. Speaking of taking them out, that is one of the main draws to the game. You have the option to either capture your foes alive, which gives you more moolah, or killing them, which gives you a lot less, but then you don't have to try and deal with them. Most of the weapons deal some kind of damage, but the spider is great for stunning a guy long enough in order to catch them, and the zapfly works pretty much the same way, where they get stunned. If you want to kill them though, you can use those bat bombs like I said, and there's even wasps, which act like a machine gun. When you're trying to capture somebody, you have to do an animation in order to suck them up into your weird capture device on your arm, and this makes you vulnerable to the other enemies. So if you're trying to take them out and trying to get them dead, then it makes it easy for yourself because then they won't be attacking you. But then if you decide that you want to capture things alive, then you have to try and lure them away, or at least incapacitate everybody if you want to feel safe when you are actually capturing them. And the best part is, it's all up to you on how you want to tackle this in order to get as much money as you possibly can.
I'm getting a little bored from the search, trying to find that Lytane guy.
The money is important to the plot and to some character development. As you play through the game, you'll be able to go to the general store and you can buy some upgrades, and of course you can buy some extra ammo. These upgrades range from just more stamina, which can heal yourself, or even ammo belt upgrades so you can hold more of the living ammo. But there aren't too many things for you to buy. I had a lot of leftover cash and I was buying pretty much everything in the game. And that is one of the problems that I found with Stranger's Wrath. There's no real incentive to get much money. Capturing foes alive and capturing them dead still gives you some kind of money, and it's usually enough to get through the game. Maybe you can't buy every single upgrade that you want, but there's no real incentive to go around capturing them and getting them all alive, especially the bosses, which are much harder to capture alive. Not to get into any spoilers here, but there is only one ending to the game, unlike every other Oddworld game. So whilst you could kill everyone or capture them alive, it doesn't really matter which one you do, because the ending is the same. More often than not, I found it harder to capture those bosses alive, and aside from a little bit more moolah, it isn't really worth it. The only positive thing from capturing them alive is that they end up in the jail at the end of the level, and you can talk to them, interact with them, and sometimes there's some funny dialogue there, but really that's the only incentive I can even possibly think about. This is a huge missed opportunity where having at least 2 different endings would have made it much better, as that would give people a reason to try the other route. It might have been fun to have a special ammo type that gets unlocked with each route as well, which could change future playthroughs of the game, but alas, nothing is here.
I heard that this was a popular place for him to eat at, but he's not here.
But what is here are some of the most fantastic graphics in gaming. The Xbox was a powerful machine for its time, and it really shows with this game. The graphics are simply gorgeous. The terrains that you go through, the character models and everything, it's just, the textures are very good. Just everything about this game looks incredible, especially for the time that it was in. One of the cool draws to this game is that there are very few loading times, unless of course you die, where you can go through a lot of different areas and they're all connected. So you can go from the main town to the next area and then back and then to the next area and back, and you will not see a loading screen because it's loading as the game goes on. There's a lot of these weird, awkward, really long corridors, which is of course where the game is loading the next area in, but then hiding it behind the fact that you have to walk around a long corridor. But I don't mind that because it makes the game feel seamless, and even though there are levels, it doesn't necessarily feel like there's levels. It makes it feel more like a world. As you'll be exploring the world, you'll be finding many different characters as well. Now, most of them seem like they have the same kind of voice, like all the chickens sounded like, the clackers, sorry, sounded like they had the same voice, all the grubs sounded like they had the same kind of voice. It seemed like there was maybe like 5 or 6 voice actors in the game. There were more, I just didn't hear enough of a variety in the voices. Like, pretty much everyone sounded the same, and it did get a little annoying. but what they were saying was usually quite funny, normally taking a dig at Stranger and, insulting him, or sometimes they were just, insulting each other or making some kind of joke. But I do have one little complaint with how Stranger delivers his lines. A lot of the time, he's got that low drawl kind of Western vibe going for him, and that's fine, that's great. The problem I had was he has these odd pauses in his words with strange inflections in them. So it'd be like, hey guys, I'm gonna go get a bounty. Like, what's with the odd pauses? It's like there's no breath there. There's like the animation that's happening on screen doesn't show him like doing something to require these odd pauses, and it happens throughout the entire game. It didn't detract from the game or what was happening. It just made me go, why is he doing that? That's a little odd. Maybe that's the point, because it's Oddworld. As you're playing through the game, you will go to a hub town where there is a store and you can collect your bounties. There are 3 hub worlds in the game, and they get bigger and grander as you go on. Here are the clackers, just these humble chickens doing an honest day work until we headbutt them or run into them. From here, you pick your bounty, and if there is more than one, you can choose which level you'd like to take on. From there, it's a long walk to find out the last location of your bounty in order to fight them and capture them. Along the way, you'll bump into quite a few enemies and have a few fights, with some being small with only a few bad guys, and others being much bigger. After trudging your way through all of that, you will find the boss, and each one of them is different, a new gimmick or protection that surrounds them. Some have force fields, others ride a monster, some have pistols, and some have shotguns. They require a little bit of puzzle solving in order to defeat, which makes them fairly fun.
I'm sure someone here knows where Lytane is.
This formula repeats itself for about half the game, and then the second half of the game changes things up a little bit. I was very welcome to this change because I started to get a little bit bored with the sameness of it all. The fact that you go to a bounty store, you explore, you fight, explore, boss, go back to bounty store, rinse and repeat. At least the second half of the game offered new challenges and new things to do, so it didn't quite get stale. The reason why it was getting stale in the first half of the game, and it is a problem in the second half, is the fact that the exploration isn't really much of an exploration. There's nothing to really see or do in the world. Going from one area to another, there's no secret collectibles, there's a few money chests and stuff like that, but there's not very many, and like I said, money isn't a huge incentive to this game because you don't really need much of it. I just found that there was not much to do in between finding these different fights. It also doesn't help that each fight is also very similar. Bosses excluded, of course, though they can fall victim to this as well, just a little bit. This game tries to make you feel like you should be stealthy and try to take out the enemies one at a time and take them out alive, and it doesn't quite handle like that. The radar helps you at the bottom with how many people there are and what directions they're looking and if they have spotted you, but it isn't quite perfect. The blind spots that you're in can become hot spots if you stun an enemy in the wrong way and he flies back too far. Once this happens, the stealth element falls to pieces pretty fast, and now you're in a shootout with whomever is left over. Now you have to try and find cover and take down the enemies by either killing them or stunning them and getting them in a location where you can vacuum them up alive. This is exciting, but when you want to try a different approach, the game doesn't really handle it very well. If you want to take everybody out by stealth, I found it to be very, very difficult, and the game wasn't handled to try and take everybody out with stealth. It assumed that you will be getting into a firefight at one point or another. Then God forbid if you actually die in this game, because you will have to do the entire fight section again, unless of course you save in the middle of the fights like I was doing, which can be very frustrating, especially in some of the longer fights.
I see him. I'm just gonna hang here until just the right moment.
I will admit though that I barely played this game on the original Xbox. I actually played and finished the HD remastered version on my PlayStation 4, and the HD remaster has a few different little upgrades and tweaks and quality of life changes over the original. Of course, it being HD means that there is upgraded graphics, there are better textures, the character models have more polygons, they re-recorded some of the voices, they added a few extra voices to the characters. I think there's like 2 females now that have voices by actual females instead of men. There are also 3 new challenging modes, so there's easy, medium, or hard. They added trophies and all that kinds of stuff. They fixed up some of the little bugs that were in the game. They made the water reflections better and a whole slew of other things. This is honestly one of the better HD remasters that I've ever played, because instead of just doing a crappy port of a game from PlayStation 2 onto the PlayStation 3, they took time, energy, and care and put like actual effort into this. They didn't just do a crappy one like the Jak and Daxter remakes, because damn, those HD remasters are pretty crummy. So now I'm going to get into some spoilers as well, so skip ahead to this time. It's going to be spoilers for the end of the game and all that kinds of stuff, so if you don't want any spoilers, click there and it'll skip it. You have been warned. This game throws some twists at you, like the fact that Stranger is a Thief. That's the Oddworld equivalent of a centaur. The operation that he wants is actually to remove his back legs so he can become a normal citizen. Now, the second half of the game has you running around with 4 legs trying to kill a squid man named Sector who tried to have you killed. This change is so dramatic, from a more stealthish oriented game to a much more action style game with war and big fights. The tone of the game changes completely, and this made me really get into the story of the world. The first half of the game, you are the bounty hunter, living with 2 legs and accepted by the clackers and the townspeople, and you just walk around like you own the place. At one point, you walk through a grub settlement and they run and hide from you as they are naturally scared of pretty much everyone. When you are captured and you go through the hardest level in the game, honestly, fuck that level. It took me an hour on hard to get through it. Oh, so much rage. Anyway, after that, you run through New York City as a thief, and the amount of prejudice there is incredible. They call you stupid, they try and hunt you, and they treat you terribly, thinking that no thief has the mental capacity to know or understand anything. Then you bump into those grubs again, and they worship you for who you truly are. They ask you to then save them from Sector, which Stranger happily agrees to as he wants to enact his wrath and get his revenge. This shift of dynamic is great, and the reveal of the bad guys are just fantastic, as it's not explicitly said to you either. The fact that Stranger goes through the first half of the game trying to fit in and have an operation and to fit in, to the second half of the game where he accepts who he is and becomes a savior to the people, is just a great change, and there's lots of little hints throughout the first and second half of the game for this different tonality. But as we get closer to the end of the game, the last 2 boss fights aren't really that good. All of this build up and it just didn't pay off. The Glocktai are these squid octopus-like things, and they are annoying to kill and easily stunlock you with their stupid spinning attack. The fact that you have to fight 2 of them at the end of the game is just downright broken on hard, because if one gets you in its webbing, mucusy thing, and the other one starts spitting, you're pretty much gone. You're gonna have to restart that fight. After you kill them, you get to fight Sector. But that's a joke. Honestly, the final fight, after having to kill 2 of those Glocktai, it was just pretty pathetic. All of that build up and it was just kind of wasted. I was hoping to catch him and put him in jail or something like that. Maybe give me the option to capture him alive or to kill him. But like I said, there's only one ending to the game, so it didn't really matter what I did. The end of the game is still good though, don't get me wrong. I just wish there was a second ending or more to it, just because I just want more from this. In my opinion, I think that... Stranger? What are you doing here?
I'm taking you in.
Whoa! 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 Oh god!
You can't run from me. Get back here. Hey, wait a minute. Aren't you 2 the guys that blew up Soulstone Brewery, Vickers Labs, and Rupture Farms?
No?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh. Oh, sorry, my bad. Bye.
Oh, gosh. Man, I need to stop that stranger. There's only one way I could possibly do it. I need some living ammo. Alright, attack him!
Living ammo. My one weakness.
That's no stranger anymore. He's part of my collection. In my opinion, I think that Stranger's Wrath is worth it. It is such a fun game. I like that the controls between the first person and the third person are very competent and both feel fleshed out. I like the world that this is set in. The graphics are gorgeous and everything about it just has so much Oddworld charm. I like the different kinds of bad guys that you fight, even if they do get a little bit tiresome. I like the combat. I liked just about everything about this game. The story was the one that really hit home for me, because I just love the subtle nuances between the first and second half of the game and how it changes it up so it doesn't get stale. There are some problems with the game though, like a lack of incentive to explore, the fact that the money system isn't super important because money is so easy to come by, the lack of variety with some of the voices, and even just like some of the gameplay elements where I was starting to get tired and a little bit bored from doing the same thing day in, day out as I was trying to capture these bounties. Stranger's Wrath was kind of everything that Oddworld Munch's Odyssey just wasn't, where it felt like you were exploring the world of Moolah instead of just going through different levels. Everything felt connected. The character of Stranger, even though he has very little backstory, is surprisingly more fleshed out than I would have believed. I like the fact that this game did all the things that Munch's Odyssey kind of promised and delivered. A seamless world with lots of action and fun, light puzzle solving, and honestly a much better made game than Munch's Odyssey ever was. Because of this, I can easily recommend it. So guys, tell me what you thought about Oddworld Stranger's Wrath. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Is it your favorite Oddworld game or your least favorite? Personally, I'm gonna say it's my third favorite game. So guys, don't forget to psych and subscribe as well. I'm so thankful. I've just hit 400 subscribers. That's almost half a thousand. That's such a crazy thing for me. I'm just so happy and thankful that there's so many people out there that have subscribed, that watch my stuff, that comment. I'm getting better at replying to comments. I swear I reply to everyone. I'm getting to them all. And I'm just so happy for all those people that do come and watch, and for those people that subscribe and all that kinds of stuff. It just makes me very happy, and I feel just so humbled that people listen and, you know, like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. It's fantastic. It just makes me so happy, and yeah, just honestly, it means the world to me. So yeah, so I'm just gonna go now. I don't know how to end this. I got a little bit soppy. So I'm just gonna say, bye! I'm so dizzy. That's such a stupid idea. Subscribe. Ring that bell, I guess. I've never said that. I feel dirty for saying that.
Oh man, I need to stop this guy.
And put my phone on silent. I shouldn't make the sound effect. I'm gonna put it in post.